Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is deny. Let's take a moment to look at some of the definitions or the ways that we use this verb. The first way you are likely to hear deny used is to mean to state that one refuses to admit the truth or the existence of something. Okay. To help us understand this first example, I'm going to use the example of a small child. And let's say you go to the kitchen and you notice there are some cookies missing, right? You say to the small child, "Did you eat the cookies?" Right? And they go, "No, I didn't do that," right? That action of saying, "No, I didn't do it," that's our verb, deny. They are refusing to say they did it, even though maybe you're noticing a little chocolate, maybe you're seeing some crumbs near the child, right? Even though there might be proof, they refuse to admit it. A second way you'll hear the verb deny used is to mean to refuse to give or grant something to someone. Recently, this verb was used in connection to an article. I was reading with some of my students in one of my classes, and we were talking about certain companies denying particular benefits to certain groups of employees. So in our example, we were talking about some part-time workers, and many times companies deny those part-time workers health insurance or health benefits. That would be a great connection to this second definition. A third way you'll hear the verb deny used is to mean to deprive oneself of something. So here it's like you're refusing something for yourself. This might be something you really want or something you really like. I know I've got at least one example sentence that will illustrate this third definition a little bit later. This third definition is probably the least common of the two. So I would focus on understanding the first two definitions. You're going to hear and see more examples with that. You should know that deny is a regular verb. To form the progressive of this verb tense, I'm just going to add ing to form the verb denying. Denying. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by adding ed, but I'm going to have a spelling change. And the reason I have a spelling change here is I have a verb that ends in consonant Y. And I didn't change my ending when I was adding a suffix that started with the letter I, but for all of my other suffixes, you are going to see me drop the Y, add an I before I add the suffix. So our past tense form of the verb here is D-E-N-I-E-D, or denied. And as I'm producing that sound, you might notice I'm just making a D sound. I'm not adding an extra syllable to the verb. And the reason I'm not adding an extra syllable is that our verb ends in a voiced vowel sound. Okay? So not a T, not a D sound. So I'm just going to make a simple D sound. Denied. Denied. Okay? There's just one phrasal verb we're going to discuss, and that is to deny to. So generally, this phrasal verb gets split apart. So we're going to have deny, then we're going to have an object, then we'll have to, and then usually a person or group of people following that preposition to. So when I use this phrasal verb, deny to, I'm generally talking about preventing someone from doing something, maybe having something, or getting access to something. Let's look at this phrasal verb in an example sentence. The medical professionals wouldn't deny pain medication to someone who is terminally ill. Okay. So this phrase terminally ill might be new. This is a very sort of serious situation where doctors have said, I'm sorry, but there's no way we're going to be able to cure this person. They are sick in a way that they will die as a result of this illness. So this particular sentence is saying medical professionals are not going to prevent someone with a terminal illness from getting or accessing pain medication. Now, let's continue practicing our verb of the day in a couple different verb tenses. Today, we're going to practice the past perfect and the simple future using be going to. We'll start with the past perfect. We use this verb tense many times to note that a particular action occurred at some point in the past. It might be before a certain time, and so we're using past perfect here to really note this occurred first, or it might have occurred before another action in the past. So the first action you will see in the past perfect, and then the second past action will just be in the simple past tense. The verb tense's name here, past perfect, has 2 letter P's. This helps me remember I need 2 parts to make the verb. I'm going to use the past form of have, that's had, and then I use my participle form of the verb. So here, that's my ed ending because this is a regular verb. Let's look at an affirmative example. He had denied all charges against him, but the jury convicted him. Okay? So in this sentence, we have a person going, no, I didn't break the law. I didn't do something bad, right? This action occurs before the action where the jury convicts or finds a person to be guilty of breaking the law. Okay. Let's look at another example. In the negative, to make a past perfect sentence, I'm going to have my subject, then I'm going to use had not, and then the participle form of the verb. Here's another example. The insurance company hadn't denied the small company's claim over lost business. So this might tie back to our second definition. Here we're saying they had not prevented this particular claim or this particular benefit. Now let's look at a yes or no question in the past perfect. To do this, I start with had, then I have my subject, and then the participle form of the verb. Here's another one. Had executives denied themselves luxuries before they decided to have mass layoffs? Okay. Here's one of my example sentences tying back to the third definition of the verb, right? So where we're sort of preventing ourselves from getting something we want or need, right? Executives here, we're talking about kind of the top individuals inside a company, your CEO, your chief financial officer, etc. Those particular individuals. And many times those people are the highest paid employees within an organization. Sometimes those employees, they get extra bonuses, extra gifts, other things. And here this question is asking, right? Did they sort of turn down those extra things? Maybe they turned down flying first class to a meeting in order to sort of stop or prevent the need to have big or mass layoffs. Okay. Now, let's take a look at making sentences in the simple future. Today, we're going to focus on using be going to talk about the future. This is really common when people are making plans. Sometimes you'll hear it used for people making predictions as well. And when I use the be going form of the simple future here, I need to pay attention to my subject. Okay? So my form of be is going to change with my subject. So if my subject is I'm going to use am, then going to, and the base verb. If my subject is you, we, or they, I'm going to use are, then going to, and the base verb. Finally, if my subject is he, she, or it, I'm going to use is going to, and the base verb. Here's another example sentence. These groups are going to deny election results. Okay, so here, there are unfortunately still many people in the United States that refuse to accept the truth of the 2020 election. So, and many times as we engage in additional elections, these same groups also begin to make up excuses, make up reasons as to why they don't think the election results are accurate. Okay? Now let's look at a negative simple future sentence. The structure is close to the affirmative, right? So I start with my subject, and then I need a form of be that matches that subject. But after that form of be, I want to use not before going to and the base verb. Here's an example sentence. The coach isn't going to deny her the opportunity to play when she's ready. So I borrowed a sentence from an article talking about a particular athlete who has been injured, has been missing opportunities. So the sentence is really saying the coach is not going to prevent this athlete from playing once she's healthy enough to compete, once she has recovered from her injury. Now let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple future. To do this, I start with a form of be, whatever form matches my subject, and that subject comes next. Then I use going to and the base verb. You can see this in my example. Are they going to deny basic legal rights to the accused? So in the United States, a basic legal right would be access to an attorney, someone who can provide you legal advice. But if someone prevents you from getting that access, right, we can use that verb to describe what's happening, denying someone's legal rights. Now, let's continue talking about some words that are related to our verb deny. And the first word we're going to discuss is the noun form of this word. Notice I still have that spelling change because I've added a suffix. D-E-N-I-A-L is the noun denial. Denial. And this noun can have a couple different meanings, just like our verb. The first way to use the noun denial is to refer to the action of saying something is not true or declaring that something is untrue. An example of this might be, the children shook their heads in denial. So here in the United States, right, that's going to be a kind of a side to side, right? Someone saying, did you do this, right? And they're going, right? That would be shaking their heads in denial. A second way to use the noun denial is to talk about the refusal of something that has been requested or something that is wanted or desired. An example of this, the insurance claim denial was a result of a missing date of birth. Okay, so here, someone has submitted a claim with the insurance company, and the insurance company initially has refused to pay the claim. And here we know the reason. There's some information missing. So hopefully in this situation, the person can add that information and resubmit it in hopes that the claim gets paid. A third way to use the noun denial is to refer to the failure to acknowledge something as being kind of an unacceptable truth or an unacceptable emotion. So how you likely hear this used is maybe someone saying to another person, you are living in a state of denial. You are sort of in your own world where you're refusing to see that something is true. or hear other people's words to kind of understand a particular situation. So you might think of this as almost like you're pretending everything's okay, or you're pretending to hear what you want, but you're refusing to accept what is true. Our next related word is another noun. It's denier. Okay, so you're going to see that suffix er. Again, I encourage my students to always, when they see that, think a person who or a thing that does, and we can connect back to the verb. Now, I also want to point out you should see denier. I have still changed that y to an I because I'm adding a suffix here that does not begin with the letter I. So our noun denier simply refers to a person who denies something. An example of this in a sentence might be, climate change deniers are a threat to everyone because they oppose policy changes that could positively impact our environment. Okay? So there are people in this world who refuse to believe, refuse to acknowledge the truth that our climate is changing, the planet is warming, and that this can have really catastrophic effects on all of our lives. I think many of us are living in places where there are more natural disasters, and many people are saying, I think there's a connection to more natural disasters and the warming of our planet. The last thing I'm going to leave you with today is the phrase, there's no denying. Okay? You might hear people say this when they feel like something is irrefutably true. Right? You cannot prove that this statement is false. That would be to say it another way. So let me give you an example of this in a sentence. There's no denying that English is a difficult language to learn. Okay? I hear this from my students regularly as they notice exceptions to rules or kind of small difference, very small, very minor differences in things. We've been working through a lot of corrections lately in some of my classes, and this is something I hear again and again. Wow, this is difficult. And I think many of you watching this would also agree. This is an absolutely true statement. Others cannot make an argument to the opposite. I hope, though, that these verb videos make learning English a little easier, a little more interesting as well. Thank you so much for watching and for leaving comments. I hope you all have a great day.